You're listening to the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Bruschi.
A young woman shot dead in her car in the early hours of the morning on July 20th in Hillsborough County, Florida. She's a mom, was a mom to two young boys, allegedly killed by a 32-year-old man, Aurelio Diaz Jr., and what authorities are now investigating as a case of premeditated murder in the first degree. It's just a completely sad story all around. I'm Tony Bruschi, Carol Hughes with us. And this there's some notions that this maybe have been a prank that went wrong, or is this something much darker?
I don't even get it. I think that it's much darker.
Okay.
I think that, I don't know, this is my gut feeling. I think that the husband will eventually be charged with this because the prank makes no sense.
Okay. Go ahead.
Because when you hear the story, it's like, that's such a bunch of bullshit. And there's no way, once you hear what the prank was, that grown people, like this guy has a child with this woman, and they're going to go do this to her, and you'll find out in the story.
Okay. According to law enforcement officials, the fatal incident occurred shortly after a text message exchange between Ashley Voss and her children's father, who was also a close friend of the suspect. The conversation reportedly turned dark when the witness, the father, whose identity remains undisclosed, claimed that he had planned a prank that went tragically wrong. Law enforcement arrived at the scene after a 911 call ended in silence. Nearly 21 minutes later, they discovered Ashley Voss's lifeless body slumped over the front seat of her silver Nissan Altima, parked in her grandmother's driveway. She suffered a single gunshot wound to the back, and the rear window of the car had been shattered. Detectives managed to access her phone, revealing a text message exchange with the father of her young child. According to the investigation, the conversation paused temporarily around 1:14 a.m. and resumed at 1:27 a.m., but this time without any response from the victim. Surveillance footage from the vicinity also played a crucial role in the investigation. The footage captured two men walking around the area between 12:20 a.m. and 1:14 a.m., with one man seen next to the victim's car discharging a firearm before fleeing the scene. During the initial interview with law enforcement, the father of the victim's younger child admitted to being in the area with the suspect that night. He initially identified himself as Diaz in one of the surveillance videos, but not in the footage capturing the shooting. However, a twist emerged when the witness father revealed a shocking intention behind the visit to Voss's neighborhood. He claimed they planned a prank involving the defendant defecating on the victim's front porch.
Who does that?
He admittedly asserted that there was no discussion or harming or killing Ashley Voss, and that the act was meant to be a harmless joke. In the controlled phone call recorded by law enforcement, Diaz allegedly confessed to the child's father, saying, "I did it just like I told you. Walked up to the back window and boom." However, Ashley Voss's grieving family members find the prank explanation dubious, probably completely insane. Rhonda Voss is Ashley's grandmother and caretaker of surviving children, emphasized that Diaz had no motive to commit such a heinous act, and he barely knew the victim. She also expressed concerns about the alleged threats made by the children's father. In regards to ongoing child support issues, Diaz remains detained at the Hillsborough County Jail without bond. Yeah, I mean, I think when the guy is saying, "I did it just like I told you, I walked up to the back window and boom," it's time to arrest dad. Because,
and the fact that last sentence there, well, second to last sentence,
yeah.
But the grandmother expressed concerns about the alleged threats made by the child's father in regards to child support issues. So they've been having issues. And then the dad's like, you know what? Let's go. I'm going to get my buddy. We're going to walk around our neighborhood and take a shit on her porch. That's funny. Or that's disgusting. I don't know why you do it. And who can just take a dump on demand like that?
Well, even if you were capable of doing this and this was what you intended, how on earth it goes from taking a shit on somebody's porch to shooting them in the back in their vehicle? These are two it's not like we went on the porch and then I tripped when I was taking a shit and my gun discharged out of my sidearm and then it hit her. I mean, there's nothing that points to this being an accident.
Yeah. And she's texting with the kid's dad. And then up until 1:14, and then apparently he texts her back at 1:27. She never answers that because she's dead. And if they're walking around together, getting ready to take a dump on her front porch, he knows that his friend, like, you don't just go, oh, I was walking with you and all of a sudden you were gone. It's the middle of the night. You're walking around a neighborhood in the dark. You know what your friend's doing.
Yeah.
It's just bullshit. And so I think they have to be looking at this guy. They have to be looking at him.
They better be watching him very closely, because it's a good thing that he doesn't appear to have any sort of custody of the children. It sounds like the grandmother does, and that better fucking stay that way. This better not be a dumbass judge that goes and says, well, it's best if the children are with the familial relative, even though we suspect he might have murdered the mom. The study that was done in 1970 or 68, we still stand by that. I couldn't tell you what study it is. I couldn't, even recite
we believe
anything.
in that one.
But we've been saying it forever. And if we start saying that's not accurate, that really kind of puts into question every single judgment and ruling that we've made in the last 45 years. So therefore, which is true, because that's the asinine reason that judges and the court system make those sort of rulings. They base it on an outdated study from the 60s that has zero bearing on reality today. Just FYI.
My hope is that this is one that the cops are releasing certain information, making it look like they're buying into the story.
Yeah.
And there's no way you can't be looking at the dad, because this guy has no reason to. It's like, I'm going to take a dump on her porch. Whoops. I accidentally just killed your ex-wife.
There's one of two things that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. There'll be an arrest made very soon, or there'll be a suicide. It's one of the two. We'll wait and find out and let you know.
You're locked into the Hidden Killers podcast.
Want more? Start binging on all of our true crime podcasts right now through Apple Podcasts, and get an ad-free experience when you sign up to be a True Crime Today Premium Plus member, exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast, dropping soon.
Press subscribe now.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition
This is the Hidden Killers podcast.
with Tony Bruschi.